it was pretty good. So we're live streaming now. So
Yes,
terrific.
let
We
me
should be getting
give you back
people
host.
asking to enter the meeting, the waiting room here. There we go. We're starting to get people. Okay, cool. All right, excellent. Welcome, everyone. I'm sure this was the most exciting way you could figure out how to spend your afternoon or evening is learning about Windows 10 basics. But I'm glad to have you here, okay? So we're going to cover some things about Windows 10 basics for people that are new or experienced users, but they just don't know their way around Windows, okay? We've got a couple of people from Get Set Up Support on our call with us. If you need any help, put something in chat. If you need to email Get Set Up Support, you can send an email at help@getsetup.io. Great. So they're here. We have lots of help here. We're also live streaming. So for those of you joining by live stream, welcome. Appreciate that. Hi, all of you out there in the world watching us via live stream, but we encourage you to join. I'm going to give people 1 or 2 more minutes to get in, and then I'll go through some introductory slides. What I want you to think about is what you wish you knew how to do in Windows. Now, that's a tough question because Windows is the operating system, whereas what you probably use your computer for is mostly applications. And so the operating system is kind of the framework of your computer system. So sometimes we don't know exactly what we're using when we use certain things on the computer. And this class will help you understand a little bit of that, I hope, too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share a few slides here to get started. And welcome to Windows 10 Basics. Whether you know much or a lot about Windows, it's really a lot to explore and learn your way around. I'm Bob Cohen. I'm in Seal Beach, California. It's a small town in between Los Angeles and Orange County. I am about 2 miles from the Pacific coast, so it is a beach town. I was born in Chicago, wanted to go to the West Coast when my dad would take us on family vacations. We always went out to California to visit my grandmother. So wanted to learn about that, worked in the tech industry, own my own internet service company and training company. And I hope to help make technology a little bit easier for you to understand and some different ways of doing things. So some of you may not have Windows 10 already, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I see a question from Paul. I'll get to that in just a minute, Paul. Let me let you know that we do learn from each other. Some people have some suggestions or tips sometimes they offer. You can request a recording after class by emailing help@getsetup.io. Again, welcome to our live stream, people. We do encourage you to join us and register at getsetup.io. And we're not paid to promote any specific products. We might be mentioning a lot of things, mostly things made by Microsoft today, but we're not paid to promote them in any way. We're just providing some educational instruction for you. So we're going to explain a little bit about what is Windows 10. We're going to talk about learning your way around things that are called the desktop, the start menu, and the taskbar, because that's most of what you will be using in Windows. But we'll check up on your security. We'll talk about starting and closing applications, and we'll take a look at things like right-clicking, search, and other tips. So Paul had a question, and his question was, I'm using Windows 7. How do I install Windows 10? And my personal recommendation, not the advice of Get Set Up, but my personal recommendation from having run a computer repair business is that you should really look seriously at buying a new computer instead of trying to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Whenever you buy a new computer that has Windows on it, it is pre-installed with Windows. And it's the least expensive way to purchase the Windows operating system. If you went to Microsoft directly and bought Windows directly from Microsoft, it's $150. And that $150 could be, I think, better spent towards upgrading a new computer, because first of all, you have to check to make sure the computer you have will allow you to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. And that depends on the manufacturer's information on the manufacturer's website. And then you're still going to have a computer that's at least 5 years old, because Windows 10 started coming out 5 years ago. And so it's kind of like, how much do you invest in the older technology before you say, well, it's probably better off if I invest in new technology. And so that's my advice. If you were a friend of mine or a family member, that's the advice that I would give you in terms of looking at, rather than investing more money in an older computer, because you're going to want that new computer for doing things like Zoom and other activities as well. Okay, so what kinds of questions do people have about using Windows 10 that they would like to have? And I'm going to use an old technology. It's called a pen and paper to write down messages. You can integrate technologies together, okay? And so using a pen and paper, it's quick, it's fast. And I do like Post-it notes, by the way, so I always use them. Anybody have anything they're hoping to learn about Windows 10 that you might not know now, or you're hoping to get an answer to today? Okay, that's okay. It's all right if you don't have any questions. That's fine. You're going to think of them as we go along. And that's okay. Everybody's kind of afraid. When I took up ballroom dancing about 6 years ago for the first time, I went to an Arthur Murray studio. One of the things they don't force you at gunpoint to do it, but they really, really encourage you to do like a 45-second dance in front of the whole group, and that getting up in public and doing a dance for the first time is really hard. So I know sometimes asking questions, there's no bad questions in my classes, okay? So any question is a good question, because chances are somebody else has that question. iPhone, I don't know your name. What's your name on iPhone? Go ahead and unmute yourself. You have your hand up? Or did you accidentally raise your hand?
Unmute, I think.
Unmute. There you go. Okay, what's your name?
Eleanor Alege.
Okay, great. Well, good to have you with us. What did you have a question?
How do you download an app on 10? How do you get, I want to do Prime. I want to get my Prime Video on my computer. I got it on my phone and on my TV, but I'd like to put it on the computer.
Okay, we're going to take a look at the Microsoft Store, where you can find and download apps for your Windows 10 computer. I bet you didn't know there was a Microsoft Store. But
no,
yeah, and app, that's one of the best places to get apps, and I'll explain why. Okay, so that's a good question. I like that one. Okay, anybody else have anything they're curious about? Okay. Lisa, what are the differences? Boy, what are the differences between Windows 7 and Windows 10 that we need to know? Gosh, it's been so long since I've used Windows 7. I don't know if I can answer that very well, but let me show you the few things that are in Windows 10 that might be new or different that might help you understand. Do you have Windows 10 now, Lisa? Yeah, okay, great, great. All right, let me share a few slides, and I will talk about some basic things that are helpful to know before we actually look at my desktop live, okay? So an operating system, okay, what does it do? Well, an operating system turns your piece of hardware into something you can use it for. Okay, it's kind of like having a car without gasoline. Well, if you have a gasoline powered car, but if you had a car without gasoline, it would be great to have the car, but you couldn't drive it anywhere, right? Because you need gasoline. So hardware like Apple Macs, HP, Dell's, iPhones, Samsung, LG's, they're all great pieces of hardware. They don't do a thing without an operating system. The operating system is a type of software that basically talks to the hardware and gives people that develop applications the ability to make their application work on that type of computer. So people develop applications for Macs, and I use Macs. People develop applications for Windows, and I use Windows. People develop applications for iPhones and iPads. People develop applications for Chrome books, which use the Chrome OS, and Android. And Chrome OS and Android are owned by Google. Apple makes iOS and Mac OS, and Microsoft makes Windows 10. But Microsoft licenses Windows 10 to other companies. So HP, Dell, Lenovo, Acer, all of them install Windows 10 on a piece of hardware that they sell to consumers. Microsoft actually makes its own computers called the Surface, and you might be seeing ads for them. And they're really good computers as well, but you can buy Windows 10 pre-installed on a lot of different hardware. And so are you buying a Windows computer or are you buying a Dell computer? That's kind of a good question. I've never really quite figured that one out. But this operating system is like the middle layer of a layer cake. It separates the top layer, things like applications, like Amazon Prime is an application, or with Chrome, the browser, or Edge, the browser, or Microsoft Word. Those are applications. They work with the operating system, and the operating system takes care of communicating with the hardware. So it makes it really, really easy for companies and businesses and people to develop applications that work on an operating system. So when you have a Windows 10 computer, you buy applications or install applications that are made for Windows 10. When you own a Mac, you install applications made for a Mac. If you have an iPhone, you install applications made for an iPhone. And the operating system sometimes comes with some built-in applications. It's very common for the operating system to include things like a web browser, because everybody browses the web, a mail application, a calendar, a calculator, and a few other things that are so common that they just include them in the operating system right away. So you can use it right out of the box when you open your computer. Any questions about that? Now you're an operating system expert, right? Okay, that's all it takes. Okay, so your desk. Well, I'm
looking to raise my hand because I'm still trying to figure out how to get the application off of Windows 10.
I will actually show you that today. Okay. I'll show you where you can manage applications. And there's another class that's kind of a partner class to this that goes into a little more depth on what are called Windows settings. but I'll show you how to, there's an easy way to uninstall an application that you might not have even known about, that's built into Windows. Okay, so let's talk about your desktop. If you've got a physical desk, you have a desktop, right? And your computer screen is your computer desktop. You have a background, you have something called the taskbar at the bottom. You've got a start menu that appears, you got tiles, and you've got a search box. And so there's lots of things you can use right on your desktop that make it really easy for you to work on your computer and do things on it without having to go searching all over the place for things. That's what the desktop is designed for. So the desktop looks a little different on Windows 10 than it does on Windows 7, but that's one of the few differences. Okay. Right. Left click and right click. Your mouse has a left click button in the upper left and a right click button in the upper right. Apple Macintosh mice have a left and a right click also, although they don't show it as two separate buttons. And trackpads also have a left and right click, only they don't show them as separate buttons. They show them as you just use the upper left area of the trackpad or the upper right area. But a left click is what you typically click to select something. A right click displays a menu of options that you might find extremely useful when you are doing almost anything on your computer. We'll look at those. A window is how Windows got its name. Okay, we don't think about this very much, but when you open up an application, calendar, mail, your web browser, you're opening up a window on your desktop. I'm going to put everyone on mute so we don't get background noise disturbing us, okay? And so that's generally best if you aren't speaking to be on mute because it makes it easier. And these microphones on phones and computers pick up a lot of noise that can interrupt things. Okay, so this window is an application, and there are three icons in the upper right, an X, a minimize or resize icon, and a dash for minimizing it. The X closes the application and the window. The minus sign minimizes it, so the window will be available to you in the taskbar if you want to reopen it. And the resize lets you change the size and drag it into position on your desktop. So when you open up a application on your computer, it opens a window, and you can have many windows open and have many applications open as well. Or you can close them. Now, the more powerful a computer you have, the more you can have more windows open, okay? So understanding windows, and you can resize them and use windows side by side as well. We're going to talk about powering up and down. You can use the start button or the Windows key to view the start menu. That's a very important key. They took that away when they went from Windows 7 to Windows 8, and then they reintroduced it right away in an update to Windows 8 called 8.1. And in Windows 10, it's back where it belongs in the lower left corner of our screen. And you can search. A lot of people don't take advantage of the search tool, but it lets you search your computer, the web, and you can type in anything for apps, all types of things. It's really a useful search box. Okay, so let's take a look. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm a tour guide, and instead of giving you a tour of a city, I'm giving you a tour of the Windows desktop. That's kind of a good analogy here. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my Windows desktop, and I'm going to move slow because sometimes I know there's a little lag between the mouse. I'm going to make my mouse a little highlight here. It's got a little red dot that helps make it easier to see as well. So this is my desktop, this whole space here. I have a few icons here for some things that I put on my desktop. at the bottom, I have my taskbar. This whole thing at the bottom is my taskbar, and there's my Windows Start menu. Well, the taskbar has the Start icon. If I click on that, it brings up the Start menu. We'll look at that in a minute. Here's the search box. We're going to look at that a little later. But then there's this little circle here. This is Cortana. This is Microsoft's artificial intelligence assistant. So somebody put in chat what city they're in, okay? And let me know where they are right now, what city they're in, if you put that in chat. And I'm going to ask Cortana a question about the weather in your city, okay? Okay, Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, I'm going to click on the microphone here in Cortana. It says, speak to Cortana. What's the weather in Phoenix, Arizona?
Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 88 in Phoenix, Arizona. The forecast shows partly sunny skies with a high of 90 and a low of 57.
Pretty neat, huh? Pretty neat. And that's built in. That's what that little circle is for. Now, I asked Cortana a pretty easy question, but you can ask Cortana to search the web, or what's the price of Zoom stock today, or did they free the boat ship from the Suez Canal, or what's the score in a favorite game you watch, or where can I find quilting supplies, whatever you want. It will search the web for you, and she'll talk back to you if possible to do it. So you can use Cortana. You can talk to your computer. It's sometimes the best conversations I've had of talking to my computer, right? Okay, so that's Cortana, right? Okay, so the next icon, this is a little mystery icon. I don't know how many of you have clicked on it. Has anybody clicked on it ever? Okay, so this is what we're going to click on it because it gives you a history of what you've been doing on your computer for the past 30 days. So here's what I did in Cortana. Here's a PowerPoint I was looking at because I teach a class on Get Set Up on PowerPoint Basics. I can see things I did earlier today, and there's a little scroll bar on the right that lets me select it and drag down so I can see, oh, what was I doing March 25th? Or what was I doing March 23rd? And it will go back 30 days for you. So you say, I was working on something, or I was looking at a web page, or I was doing something, and you want to see what you were working on, you just have to click the task menu here and a task view, and it just brings up a history of what you've been doing on your computer. Probably something very useful in a spy movie, if somebody wanted to spy on somebody and see what have they been doing for the past 30 days, right? But it's a useful tool. So we've already learned Cortana and Task View. Wow, okay, and they're built into the taskbar automatically. So the other things we see are there's an icon for Microsoft's Edge web browser. Microsoft's Edge web browser is built into Windows, and they built it in, and most people find it good and useful, but you can install another browser if you want to from the Microsoft Store. I have Google Chrome here. There is a file management tool. This is your File Explorer. And we'll take a look at that a little bit later. But then you've got Mail. I have a couple of applications that I've installed here, and it shows me that I'm working in PowerPoint. It shows a little preview as I hover over it of what I was looking at. And then on the right, there are some indicator icons. One is for Meet Now. I have that because I subscribe to Microsoft 365. I have OneDrive. It tells me my battery charge, if I have internet access, and my speaker volume, and the day and the date, okay? And so this is really interesting in navigating. Okay, so this is really cool. And if you want to get rid of task view, you just left click on your desktop anywhere and it makes it disappear. Okay, if you don't want it anymore. Okay, the start menu. Okay, the start menu is what you get to by pressing on your Windows key or clicking on the Windows icon, the start icon, and it brings up something that is in 3 columns. The left column are some quick access tools: power, settings, pictures. A lot of people go to their pictures a lot, so they put that there, and documents. Documents are where most of your files and things you work on are saved. Okay. If I click on power, it gives me the 3 menu options. I can put my computer to sleep, and it explains these things, these little tool tips that pop up. I'll read it because I know it's small. It puts your computer to sleep and saves everything that you've been working on. And so when you want to wake it up, when you fold a laptop lid, it puts your laptop to sleep. But when your computer's asleep, it's still powered on. It's still communicating over the internet. It just is not using as much power as it was before. So it's a quick way to take a break and then come back. Shutting down turns off the power to your PC. And that's how you should always shut it down. You should shut it down with the power menu. And restart powers it down and then automatically restarts it again. Microsoft and Apple and most computer companies recommend that about every 3 or 4 days, you restart your computer. The reason is that applications put things into memory, and sometimes that doesn't get out of memory until you restart your computer. So restart can sometimes refresh your computer. It's like powering it back on again when you want to. So those are some quick settings with that. Now, if I click on the start menu, in the middle column is an alphabetical list of all of the applications I have installed on my computer. There's Cortana, there's a calculator. I have Office 365, so I have Access. There's an alarm, the camera. Cyberlink is a video editor. I use Excel. I hardly use Feedback Hub, but that's if you want to give feedback to Microsoft. Get Help, that's help from Microsoft. I installed Google Chrome. It comes with Groove Music. I installed iCloud. Comes with Mail and Maps and Edge and News. And I use Office, Solitaire. There's the Microsoft Store. We're going to look at that in a minute. Movies, Mixed Reality Portal. I don't use that, so I can't really say what it's about. OneDrive, OneNote, Outlook, Paint, Parallels. I use that for PowerPoint, Publisher, Settings. They're all just in alphabetical order. So you can do these. Now, say I use my calculator a lot. Well, if I wanted to use my calculator, I'd have to move my mouse to the start menu, click on the start menu, scroll to calculator and launch calculator. Okay, not a bad way to do it, but Microsoft gives you, oh, I launched calendar by mistake. Sorry about that. That happens to me sometimes. Let's go to calculator. Calculator, okay. Go ahead, calculator. There you go, get started. Okay, so the calculator starts up, and then when I'm done with it, I can click the X and say, close the window. But if I go up to calculator, hover over it, just stay there. I'm not clicking on it. And instead of left clicking, I right click. I bring up a new set of options. My gosh, okay. So I can pin it to the start menu. That's this area of tiles over here. So if I do it, it pins it to the start menu right here. And I can actually left click on it and drag it around to move it around if I want to. Okay. So if I like, I want it up here at the top, up here, I can put it here if I want to and make it really visible if I want to. There it is. Okay, let me make it there. I got a folder here that I created by pulling two on top of each other. If I also want to, I can right click. No, I'm sorry about that. If I go to start and hover over calculator and I right click, I can go to more. Excuse me. And I can pin it to the taskbar. Okay. If I pin it to the taskbar, it's now in my taskbar. It's really easy to get to. So whenever I want to launch my calculator, it's right there for me, right in front of me every time I want it. So if there's something you use frequently, pin it to your taskbar because that's what it's there for. It's there for you to be able to get to things really quickly that you use often. Now, there's a couple of other options with the calculator. There's more. I can share it. I can change some settings about the app. I can uninstall it. I'm not going to uninstall it right now because I like having it on there. But if I wanted to uninstall the application, I could click on this. It'll ask me to confirm, but I don't want to. Okay, so I'm going to click outside of this, and that stops it. But any application you see here in this list, if you don't like Cortana and you're tired of talking to her, you can right click and you could uninstall it if you wanted to. Well, sometimes they don't let you uninstall it. Some applications, they may not let you uninstall. But you have the ability to uninstall the ones that do let you do that just by right clicking on them. There's always 2 or 3 ways to get something done in Windows. So you can go to the start menu, launch the settings function, and then in apps here, it tells you can uninstall apps if you want to. So you have the ability to select an app and uninstall it if you want to from here. That's just another way to get to it. It's always 2 or 3 ways to get something in Windows. So let's see. We've answered how to use the right-click menu a little bit. And there's always options for the right-click menu that you may not be aware of. How to use power, how to use Windows, a few other things, tiles, okay? If I wanted to get rid of editing this tile, I can resize it, or I can get rid of the folder if I want to, and I can say, get rid of those things there. I don't like them there. And they're not in this tile. Now, when Microsoft came out with Windows 8, okay, this is technology history for those of you that care about it. When Microsoft went from Windows 7 to Windows 8, they made Windows 8 with the idea that it would work on Microsoft phones and Microsoft tablets. Does anybody own a Microsoft phone? I doubt it. You know, Microsoft spent $8 billion to buy a company called Nokia because they thought they were going to get into the phone market. They really tried, but just by the time Apple and Android were out there, there wasn't a need for a third set of phones. And so they said, well, we won't worry about phones. But there are a lot of laptops that come with touch screens. And it's easier sometimes to tap on a tile than it is to tap on one of these little start menu icons. And so tiles make it easier for people that have touchscreen laptops to use their touchscreen, which is why they have it. Okay, but you can modify it if you want to. Okay, so let's find the Microsoft Store. I can get to the Microsoft Store in a couple of ways. I can go to the Start menu and scroll down here. Here's the Microsoft Store. So the first time you get to it, it might be this way. Okay, I'll click on it, select it, and voila, we get the Microsoft Store. So someone had asked how we find an application and install it. Well, the Microsoft Store is the preferred way for you to get an application because Microsoft runs it and they inspect any applications that are available on it for security. Okay, and so they have a home screen, they have a gaming tab that shows games. I am not a big game player on my computer, but if you are, you can find all kinds of games. You can find entertainment apps. You can find productivity apps. And there are deals lots of times. So this is actually something you can scroll up. Some apps are paid, some apps are free, okay? So some apps, and you can search for apps. I don't know if Amazon Prime is available, so I'm going to search for it. Amazon Prime. Oh, there's Amazon Prime Video for Windows. How about that? We got really lucky. Usually I'm not this lucky in a class finding things like that, but if I want to download, if I want to look at Amazon Prime for Windows and it says get, it is not, I don't have to pay to download the app, but it offers in-app purchases. If I wanted to subscribe to Amazon Prime, I would have to do that. So if I click on get, it'll download it and I can install it. Okay, so it lets me, it's starting the download. I can go off and do other things. I don't have to wait for this. So I can just go off and do other things on my desktop and not worry about this. So it's, at least I should be able to. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do this right now. I'll let it download. So it's going to take, it's going to be really fast. There we go. Okay, almost done. And so now I'll have Amazon Prime Video for Windows. Okay, I could have gone to the Amazon website as well and done it. Now I can launch this, but let's say I want to close the Microsoft Store. What I would do is I would go to my Start menu and I would look for Amazon Prime. Now they give you a list of something recently added here, so I can find it right there, but it also is in alphabetical order as well. So the Microsoft Store is where you can find apps. Some apps you might have to download from the internet. They might not be available in the Microsoft Store, but if you can find it in the Microsoft Store, it's the preferred way to do it because it will keep it up to date. Any questions about that? Okay. Anyone have ever used the Apple App Store for an iPhone, or there's an Android Play Store for Google and an Apple Mac Store for Apple Macs? Everybody's using app stores now to help make sure apps stay more secure rather than downloading from the internet. So we ought to probably do a security checkup on my computer while we're at it. What do you say? Okay, let's do that. So I will go to Settings. I'll click Start menu. I will go to Settings. And in the Settings menus here, there's something called Update and Security. Okay, that's a good one to know about. Okay, it just is helpful. So Windows out of the box, when you got your Windows 10 computer and you opened it up for the first time, Windows is set up to automatically communicate. Once you set up your internet connection, and you activate Windows, it'll automatically check with Microsoft for updates. And Microsoft has two types of updates they have. I'm going to type in the information here. Microsoft has what they call critical, and they have optional. Okay, critical updates are updates that fix bugs or fix security gaps that Microsoft has found. All critical updates are downloaded automatically and installed automatically. Okay, so you don't have to even worry about them unless you made some changes to your computer. Optional updates are things you don't have to install. They're not going to solve a security problem. They're not going to give you fix some bug in Windows that Microsoft discovered. And so they're optional whenever you feel like downloading them and installing. And about every 30 to 45 days, Microsoft will catch up and just install them anyway for you. So that's Windows Update, automatically done for you. And they put a little green checkbox here that tells you that everything's okay. Okay. The other option here is called Windows Security. Again, out of the box, when you open up Windows 10, it comes with pre-installed security software from Microsoft. You don't have to install anything else if you don't want to. But if you bought a retail computer from anybody other than Microsoft, they probably had free offers where you could get a free trial for this security software or that security software, and you could subscribe and pay for that security software. Some of them offer some additional features like privacy protection, but the virus and threat protection you need for Windows, your account and firewall and app and browser control is all set up right from the start, because Microsoft includes a security software with Microsoft's Windows 10 operating system right from the start. And it's a really good one. It's a really good one. But they don't make a big deal about it because they don't want to get into a lawsuit with all the partners that make money from selling security. Okay. But it's built in. It's built in. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. So that's your Windows security checkup. Now, there is another way to check up on security. In the taskbar, there's a little icon here. It says might show hidden icons. Just to save you some room, there's a security shield, and this will give you an alert if any action is needed on your part. Mine says no actions needed, so I can click on it and it brings up my security at a glance, green checkbox, green checkbox, green checkbox. Wherever there's a checkbox and it's green, it's fine. These don't have checkboxes, but it tells me I don't need to do anything if I don't need to. I love no action required because that means everything's right up to date and on top of it. But it's built in. So there's two ways you can get to it, with that little security shield in your taskbar or by going to Windows setting. Okay. Any questions so far? This is the shortcut. Now, I know all of you really love the instruction book you got when you bought your computer. You got an instruction book with your computer, didn't you? Okay. No, you don't. Right. You get an instruction book when you buy a car, but you don't get an instruction book with a computer. But there's a lot of help in Windows. Interestingly enough, in the Windows Start menu, one of the things that is here is some tools from help. Let's see if I can find it again. I found it before. Let's see. Tips is in there. So if you want to learn more after class and you just want to say, gee, I'd like to get some ideas on things I can do. Tips. Is it time for a new career? No. Work remotely. Keep your data secure. Pick a good workspace. Keep in touch. Do more with Cortana. Personalize your PC. Get started with Windows 10. 10 tips, right? Working with Word, Excel. It's just called tips and it's built into Windows. It comes standard with Windows. Okay. If I wanted to get help If I click on this search box, I can search for anything. Okay, I just clicked in it. That's all I did. And it brought up some recent searches. It lists top apps I might use, but I can search for everything, or I can search for apps. I can search for documents. I can search the web, or I can search what's called more. I can search email from here. I can search folders. I can search music. I can search, if I use my computer for contacts, I can use for people, photos, settings, and even videos. Or if I just want to search the web, I can go and just type search, and I can just say anything I want if I want to. So if I wanted to search for Phoenix, Arizona, okay, University of Phoenix, or just do Phoenix, Arizona, there's the city of Phoenix. It brings up a web browser right away. So I can open the results in Bing right away. I don't have to have my web browser open to search for something on the internet. I can just type in a search like this, or I can go, use Cortana if I wanted to as well. Bing is Microsoft's built-in search browser. Okay, so it's built into Windows. One last thing we should look at. That's the file explorer here. Now, by the way, you can right click in a lot of places you might not think about. You can actually right click in the taskbar, in the toolbar rather, and you can change things in it. You can change the settings for it, and you can move it around and change the size of things. If you want to move it, if you like it on the bottom, you can put it on the bottom. But if I want to move it to the top, I just click top and it goes to the top. Or if I want it on the right, moves to the right. Or if I want it to the left. If you're working on a document or something and you want it in a different place, you can move it around if you want to. You don't always have to put up with it. You can get help on the right-hand side. Whenever you do things, you'll typically find how to pin an app to the taskbar, showing the battery icon, changing the color. I didn't know you could change the color of the taskbar. So that's something we can do. If you don't like this dull gray effect, you can change the color. And if you just click on help, it'll bring up help. So I can personalize the taskbar, okay, if I want to. So you can customize your computer. In fact, you can change the background picture. Remember that right click? There's two ways to get to changing the background. The easy way is to just right click when your mouse is right in the background. And if you go to personalize, it brings up the personalize screen, and you can choose from some photos if you have them, or you can browse your computer for any photo you have on your computer. So if you browse, it opens up your navigation, your file system, and you just have to know where in the world you have that picture that you want to use. And so I just have a folder with pictures, and I choose this one. This is of the Maldives because it's a beach. Okay, and so now this is my background picture. If I minimize this is my Windows desktop now. So that's the power of a right click. Just I right click, I can go to personalize, and then I can go back to my boring Microsoft Road, or I can change it to a flat color. This is a picture, but if I want to use a solid color, I can do that. So there's other ways to personalize that we go into on the settings class that we go into in more depth. But right clicking, does things. I didn't even know what display settings does. Let's check that. Okay, because maybe you want to probably make things bigger on your screen. So I can change how everything looks on my screen. I can make everything bigger by changing this from 100% to 125%. Everything got bigger. Okay. My taskbar got bigger. My icons here got bigger. The icons on my desktop got bigger. Everything got bigger just by changing that one setting called display settings. I don't know what new is. New, oh, these are new. If I want to create something new, if I wanted to start a new Microsoft Word document or a new publisher document or something else, I could start something new right from right clicking here, even if it's not in my taskbar. So I can sort things. This is how I can sort things on my desktop. And I can choose how I want my icons, if I want them large, medium, or small on my desktop. Kind of interesting what you could do with a right click. It's built in to make it easy for you to do things. One last thing about Windows, and we do have a class coming up called Organizing Files on Your PC. And I'm actually doing that. And so it's on how to organize files, because I'm sure nobody in this class would want to take that, because I know you're all organized, right? But really people, they've told me it's really frustrating. This little file folder here opens up the Windows File Explorer system. And so this has all kinds of information on your files and folders and how to view them and documents. It'll show you OneDrive. It'll show you anything you have on your PC, any cloud drives you use. So this is how you manage things on your computer. This is how you see your file folders. And if you wanted to pin a folder to quick access, you can do it. At the top is a list of pins that are things you might want to get to quickly. Or you can start new folders or change the way you view them as well, or even share a folder if it's in the cloud. So if I want to change how I'm viewing things, this is a list. If I wanted to view them as icons, I can view them as icons. There we go. Let's do it small icons. I can view them as a list, or I can show them as tiles, or I can even see what might be in the content. So we'll take a look at that when we look at so you can organize and you can sort them, but this is how you get to all the files and disk drives you have, is by using File Explorer. All right, so now you're a Windows 10 Pro, right? You've got it all figured out. I mean, that there's always something you can figure out how to do in Windows that you might not have known before. But again, you can actually type help in here and you can say, how do I find, how do I install a new app? And so it'll bring up results from the web. It'll bring up search results from Laptop Magazine or Windows websites that offer Windows help and other things like that. So there's always ways to do things by searching for them. Now, if I want to change my desktop back, I right click, go to display settings, and I'm going to change this back to 100%, and it's going to size everything down. There's actually settings that let you adjust the font size, setting up multiple monitors, changing the brightness of your screen, doing all kinds of things in settings. So this will help you get a little more comfortable navigating around Windows, because every app you use in Windows opens up a new window. If I open up a calculator, it opens up a window. If I want to open up a PowerPoint slide, it opens up a window, and I can resize these so that I can use them side by side if I want to, and work with two apps at a time by doing it that way. So windows are there to help you work more effectively, just like you'd have different file folders or sheets of paper on your desktop. You have different windows on your desktop for different things you're doing. And it's just a matter of what's more convenient. If you want to have a calculator open while you're filling out, some tax forms, on the web, you can do that. Or if you want to have a web page open while you're sending an email, you can use two windows side by side like that too. But the tools are there to help make it easier for you to do things faster and quicker on your desktop and doing whatever it is you want to do. Okay. Wow, that was a lot. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see everybody. Did you learn something new about Windows? At least one or two things, hopefully. And don't be afraid to click on things. It's not going to break it. You can always restart your computer if you get lost, and it'll start it up brand new. But remember, those windows, they can be minimized and doing other things too. So let me thank you, John, for posting the link to the PowerPoint class. That really helps a lot. I appreciate that. Let me share a few slides here. This is where we left off. We took a good look around. So Windows 10, it's an operating system made by Microsoft, and Mac is made by Apple, and Chrome is made by Google, and Android is made by Google. And they all kind of want you to work with them more than somebody else. It's kind of like, come to our club, we think it's better, but they all will do basically the same thing. They all really work. Virtually all retail Windows computers come with it pre-installed, and it's the least expensive way to get Windows is to buy a new computer with Windows pre-installed. Your desktop has all kinds of icons and tools to help you use Windows. Take advantage of the search. Try Cortana out. Sometimes it's easier to type. Sometimes it's easier to talk. Just kind of depends on what mood you're in and what you're interested in doing and how you might be using it. And share, information about get set up with other people. Give us some feedback. Liz is one of our marketing professionals, and she's always happy to get feedback at liz@getsetup.io. A related class is Windows 10 settings. We'll learn a little bit more about digging into customizing Windows. It's kind of like, I call settings kind of the furniture that you put into a room. You can rearrange the furniture, but you can't knock down the walls without a major remodeling. So, but settings is the way you can rearrange and decorate things. OneDrive Basics is a great class for Windows users. And so I do classes on Windows 10, Zoom virtual backgrounds, iPhone, App Store, PowerPoint, a few other things, living and retiring abroad, which is another story on how I got into that topic. And you'll get an email follow up with links to some websites on Microsoft that I found will help you explore some new things. If you found the class helpful and you liked it or enjoyed it, let us know. You can give feedback on the class, and you can give feedback on me as the instructor. So you have a choice of how you want to do your feedback either way. And you're going to get some takeaways. The new Get Set Up website now has live streaming. So for those of you that joined us via live streaming, we encourage you to come and join us at getsetup.io. People that take classes and can host interest groups on topics. So send an email at help@getsetup.io if you're interested. Suggest a class if you'd like more about a particular topic, because we're always interested in seeing what our learners like to see topics about. So if you have any questions before we wrap up with this delightful hour, you've been such a polite and courteous class. I just love it when people are really, really good about it. Thank you to our TAs for helping out and posting some links that will help people find some other classes. So anybody have any questions before we say good night or good afternoon, depending on what part of the time zone you're in? Yeah, Sue.
On Windows 7, when I started it, I had a list of favorites on the left side, and I have found them on Windows 10, but I have a hard time remembering where I found them at. Would my
Favorite apps in your app?
favorite websites?
Oh, okay. Okay. Favorite, that depends on the web browser you use. Favorites are typically found in a web browser by looking for a star symbol somewhere.
Mhm.
Both Edge and Google Chrome do that. Macs are a little bit different and where you find favorites. But if you upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, depending on the web browser you used, your favorites would have been imported or they might not have been. Okay, it depends. That's a web browser function as opposed to an operating system function. But your web browser is where you'd find favorites. And look for
Okay.
a star symbol at the top. And one of those will be favorites typically.
Would it be easier for me to just type in search? Where am I?
Yeah, once you if you don't have a list of favorites that's available to you anymore in your web browser because they didn't get imported, for example, if you type in a search for a website and then you save it as a favorite by clicking on the star, or there's usually a menu option that lets you save it as a favorite too.
Okay, I think they got imported because I have found them.
Yeah,
But-
Microsoft moved from Windows 7, they moved from Internet Explorer to Windows 10, and
Mhm.
Windows 10, they moved to the Edge web browser. It's they don't support Internet Explorer anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason is that the technology that the web works on is controlled by industry standards groups, and they changed the standard for how websites work. And Microsoft upgraded their web browser Edge to work with the latest industry standards for the web.
Mhm. Yeah, and that doesn't work with the calculator for savings bonds.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes you might have to use the Chrome browser. Now, Edge has changed a little bit. They did upgrade the Windows Edge web browser to use the same underlying technology that Google Chrome uses. And
Mhm.
so it's like kind of ironic. Google makes Chrome, but they also license, it's like the way Microsoft licensed Windows 10 to companies like Dell and Lenovo and HP. Google licenses what they call Chromium to be used, and Microsoft uses it for Edge, and Apple uses it for their web browser, Safari. So if we use any of those browsers, they all are pretty compatible now with everything. And because, but you can still install and use Google Chrome or on your Windows desktop as well.
I have to use Internet Explorer for that.
Oh, really? Wow, the web, that's pretty old.
Mhm.
And as it's something that may not be quite as secure anymore. So the website ought to work with Google Chrome, at least, if not the latest version. If you download and install the latest version of Edge from the Microsoft Store, you might want to check to see if it works with that now. If they
Okay.
changes, because they did this in about the past 6 months. They made changes to it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. It's time for me to go get my dinner, because that's dinner time here out on the West Coast. But thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again in another class and appreciate your participation. Thanks very much.
Thank you.